Tzedakah is a central value of the Jewish people. I think it's something that we take great pride in, that we're a charitable, generous community, and we help in all kinds of ways to all kinds of people. And tzedakah is not so easy. I mean, it's easy to talk about, and it's easy when you are flush, but it's not always easy to give to others. And even when you do give to others, it's not always easy to give as much as perhaps you should give, or to give the best of the best. So if you had to give away clothing, for example, it's unlikely that you're going to take your fanciest or most beloved items and give them away to other people. What you'll do is the things you don't plan to use any longer, they're a little bit worn, that's what you'll give away to other people. And the same thing with money. When it comes the time of the month, as we're supposed to do, to allocate a portion to tzedakah, it's quite normal for a person to say, okay, listen, these are my expenses and this is what I have to spend on. And once I've settled the things that I need, then I'll give some money to those who are less fortunate than ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we look at it ourselves and we think we're actually really good people. How many people don't contribute? Now, the Torah portion we're going to read this week, Nosoi, which happens to be the longest single Torah portion of the year, describes a mitzvah that applied in the time of the temple. It was called Bikurim. And Bikurim meant that if you were a farmer, as most people were at that time, so as your first fruits each season would begin to bud, you'd have to identify them. And then once they were ripe, you would take those fruits and you would make pilgrimage to the temple, to the Beis HaMikdash, and you would contribute those fruits to the Kohanim. It was there was a whole set of contributions that the community would make on a regular basis to the Kohanim. They served on our behalf in the temple, and we supplied them with various things that they needed. So in tomorrow's parasha, when it describes this mitzvah of Bikurim, it says something very interesting. It says that you should take the fruits to the Beis HaMikdash, to the temple, and then you should distribute the fruits to the Kohanim, which seems a little bit unnecessary. I mean, why don't you just take it and go to where the Kohanim live and hand it out to them? You know, why first go to the Beis HaMikdash? And by the way, it was done with incredible fanfare, and it was a huge celebration when people would bring their Bikurim to the Beis HaMikdash. But it does seem a little bit of an unnecessary step. So the Rebbe gives an incredible insight into this, and he says, this is a story of contribution, and therefore it's to teach us about how the Torah expects us to contribute. In that particular case, it was the Bikurim, the first fruits, but the principle applies equally to all our contributions, all our charitable contributions. See, it is difficult to give. It is difficult, especially to give first. You know, there's a very famous book, The Richest Man in Babylon, about how to become financially successful. And he says that the core principle is always pay yourself first, which essentially means that before you get involved in the expenses that you are required to pay yourself, put money away for yourself that you would save so that you can build your own wealth. And Judaism says almost the exact opposite. Always pay your tzedakah first. That's Bikurim, the first fruits. Before you get involved in any other financial transaction, the first priority should be to give to those in need. And it's not easy to do. That's why the Torah says, before you even get to the point of giving that money to the Kohen, first you take it to the Beis HaMikdash. Physically, that meant you actually went to the temple. Psychologically, what does it mean? Recognize that that money actually doesn't belong to you. It already belongs to God. Those items that we're going to dedicate to tzedakah, they were never ours in the first place. That's the portion of our earnings that Hashem has deposited in our care to see that we look after it in the way that He had intended, which means to help others. We're not required to give everything away. In fact, the Talmud says that if you give more than 20% of your earnings to tzedakah, that might be considered an overstep. But the part that we are expected to give away, the attitude that we should take is, it's actually not mine. It actually already belongs to the other person. And when we adopt that attitude, then Hashem says, okay, I see that I can trust you with the funds and with the items that I've given to you, so now I'm comfortable to give you more, or as the Torah says, please God, tenfold more. Have a wonderful Shabbos.